Hi, everybody. I'm Alex.
Hi, I'm Sue.
Welcome back. We've covered a fair bit of territory already, so we've now about to enter our fourth podcast. Uh, so hopefully you're still enjoying the journey alongside Sue and myself, because we're certainly enjoying sharing our knowledge and our life experience primarily with you. And today we're going to talk about a kind of combination, if you like, positive emotions and linking that to the whole concept of gratitude, because I'm sure you've heard so much about gratitude. And I'm going to throw it to you in a second or two, Sue, to actually describe the science behind positive emotions. And part of that would be, what is an emotion? So over to you.
Yeah, look, I have to admit, I love emotions. This is where I sort of started
Mhm.
my early career in this sort of space was about emotions. And purely, I think of emotions as data. That's all they are.
Uh,
Emotions are data, they're information, they're trying to tell us something. And emotions are there for a reason. They help us adapt and change and shift and whatever we feel sad because we lose something of value. Our brain slows down when we're grieving to help protect us and sort of reset us. We feel joy or happiness when we gain something of value or things are going our way. So it's really that simple as emotions are data, they're information, and they're trying to tell us something. And if we can use that information, it can really help us.
Awesome. So what about the people who are told to not be emotional?
Well, I have a saying on that one too. It's
Yeah.
basically you would have to cut your head off at the neck and drill out the core part of your brain to not be emotional. Because
Brilliant.
we are emotions. We feel emotions
Yeah.
through our body, through the physiology. Like, I don't know, when you feel you're bursting with joy, you're bursting because you have energy around your heart, your lungs, your body, your parasympathetic nervous system you want to
Yeah.
move. When you feel anxious, your heart is racing, your chest is going, you might feel sweaty palms, etc. So you really can't. And I don't think that's what people mean when they say don't be emotional. They're actually talking about don't express it because I feel
Yeah.
uncomfortable if you do.
Yes.
Sometimes people say to me, what about that person who's annoyingly happy all the time? Well, okay, are they genuinely happy? Well, yeah, they seem to be. It's like, well, okay, that's telling me more about you then than it does about them. So it's not about faking it, but it is about understanding that we are emotional beings. You said previously we're primates. We have a limbic system, same as many animals. But it's actually how we use our emotions intelligently that's important. And I think that's where the positive emotion stuff comes in.
Cool. So this concept of emotions being data, could you expand on that a bit more?
Yeah, so I think of, and I have to say data because, that's what comes out of my mouth.
That's okay.
We get data from our physiology. So if you think of data or information, we're getting information all the time. So we get information through our senses, we get information through our body, through the neurochemicals and the neurotransmitters, the hormones through our body, etc. We get all of that information. And are we good at interpreting that data? So as an example, if you think about data and the data we're getting from our body, the information, some people find it hard to distinguish between anxiety and excitement
Right.
because they have similar data, they have similar
Wow.
information coming through. And we get that data all the time from our physiology, from our brain. But it's then how do we use that data well? And sometimes it's easy to get overwhelmed by emotions. But when we stop and we notice that actually it's a flood of chemicals through our brain, they probably last 90 seconds through our brain and our body, and then it's kind of moving on. If you don't listen to the data, maybe it happens again and again and
Yeah,
again.
okay.
But if you listen, maybe we can shift those emotions more quickly.
Cool. So another thing that I've heard people talk about, for all of my life is good versus bad emotions.
Ooh, yeah, not good.
Right.
I always make sure that we're really clear there is no such thing as a good or bad emotion.
Cool.
We use them all the time, but actually, in the literature, people talk about positive, neutral, negative, but never is it good or bad. Emotions are just are. Anger just is. Anxiety is. It's only what we do with it that would be good or bad.
Awesome. So does that mean it's okay to feel those so-called negative emotions?
Yeah, and I think this is the thing. Somebody once put it to me, a very wonderful researcher in our space, said one of the things when I asked him what he does for his well-being, he said, I think it's my ability to sit with discomfort.
Right.
Because if you think about emotions, our whole life is filled with emotions. I have a saying, get comfortable with the uncomfortable emotions.
Right. Yeah.
Because if you're not prepared now and again to sit with disappointment or anxiety or sadness or frustration, your life is going to be very difficult. Whereas if sometimes we can stop and notice and say, okay, yeah, I am feeling sad, and that's because I've lost a sense of connection to my community. Or actually, I'm feeling bored. Okay, yes, because it's because I am not enjoying or feeling challenged by what's going on in my world right now. Or I'm angry because something's getting in my way and I feel like I can't achieve what I want to achieve, etc. By understanding and being able to sit with them, it makes it far easier to manage them rather than trying to pretend, no, I shouldn't be feeling this right now.
Yeah.
And I think that's the challenge. And we know from the literature that people who devalue negative emotions are actually less happy.
Right. That's fascinating.
Mm.
Yeah. And it actually answers a lot of things that, you're going to run into in life. And people, for example, saying suppress your anger and don't demonstrate it. So could you describe from your own life a point where that data was really useful to you?
Yeah, look, I think there's two things I'll share. One is the a negative emotion data. So little things. I am very well aware of the physiology, the data that I'm getting through my body, and I remember it was a few years ago now. I would wake up in the morning and I would just feel a bit. And it was kind of like in my stomach, I felt a bit like I hadn't eaten anything dodgy, but I just felt like this kind of like weight in my stomach, and I felt a bit more lethargic. And it just kept hitting me, in the mornings I'd notice this, and I'd kind of feel a bit, meh. And it took me a while to sort of identify what was the data that I'm being sent, and I came up with the word boredom.
Mhm.
Because I recognized that I was doing a lot of the same sort of things and I wasn't being challenged. I didn't feel I was stretching myself anymore. Now, as soon as I recognize it as boredom, I know because I've studied the science that boredom is in the disgust category, if you like.
Oh, wow.
I know boredom is low energy disgust.
Oh,
So, disgust means something or someone is offensive to me or my rules are being violated.
wow.
So as soon as I went, okay, well, boredom is low energy disgust, and disgust means something is offensive to me. What's offensive to me? Well, okay, my life is not, it's offensive to me. It's not what I want it to be right
Yeah.
now. As in, I'm saying my rules, as in my values, are saying one thing, and I'm not delivering on those. So it was a really great opportunity to say, okay, now I know what the data is. What am I going to do about it? And rather than waiting for somebody else to challenge me because I haven't identified it and I'm just kind of waiting for life to come at me and give me something to challenge me, it was able to go, okay, well, what do I need to do to shake things up, to live more in line with my sense of meaning that we've been talking about, all of those sorts of things. My goal to shake it up. So that was
Mm.
one from the negative. The other thing that I think is really useful is paying attention to the positives.
Yeah.
We skim over them sometimes, but
Yeah.
I know you said to me a little while back when we were chatting that one of your joys was holding your wife's hand walking along the beach.
Yeah.
If we never stop and notice the data of that moment of joy, we're not going to think to replicate it. And yet that's
Yeah.
probably what we want to be doing.
Absolutely. I mean, I think thank you for referencing that one because that is I've been very blessed and had a wonderful life, but they are the most powerful moments for me. And walking along not holding a hand would feel awful. So that whole moment has to be replicated, and as you say, therefore we've got to analyze it. And thank you for the gift of the description of boredom as well. So I recently had a conversation with somebody who really challenged my understanding of boredom, and I wish I knew what you shared, because that person was trying to intimate that all human beings should strive for moments of boredom. And I think it wasn't a logical route they were taking, and yeah, I would have loved to have had that information you've just shared.
A really important one, that Alex, because if you think about boredom, boredom can be useful because it's telling you that your rules have been violated or something is
Mm,
offensive to you. Now, that could be a small, and that's the strong, that's the discuss category.
yeah,
But boredom is, I need to shake it up. I need to challenge things.
yeah,
So boredom can be useful if you interpret the data of, like when
yeah,
children say, I'm bored. As a
yeah,
parent, you'll go, well, find something to do.
yeah,
That's pretty much
yeah,
what we're doing.
yeah. So what about emotional contagion?
Oh, well, I love this because we see this happen all the time, and yet we don't pay attention sometimes enough to it.
Yeah.
And it happens in a couple of different ways that I think are interesting. Is if one person is happier in a room, it potentially can spread. Equally, if one person is angry in a room, it can spread, etc., etc. And we know this, it links to the brain, which I think is really fascinating. There's an area of the brain that is designed to read emotions on faces in that sort of unconscious way. So you might not even notice that you are picking up these cues from somebody else, and then you start feeling what they're feeling. And then we have what we call emotional empathy and cognitive empathy. So cognitive empathy is I know what you're feeling, I get it, and I can go, yep, you're sad, you're probably going to be grieving, you're probably going to be this. But emotional empathy is when I start feeling what you're feeling. And some people are really sensitive to that. So that emotional contagion, it happens across humans all the time. One person laughs, everybody starts
Yeah.
giggling. One person feels sad, it can bring a team down. But some people are much more sensitive to that than others. The thing that I like to think about is with that ripple effect, that contagious element, is am I aware of how I'm showing up?
Awesome. And again, it brings back to me a moment in my life. I used to run a coaching business, and early on in developing the coaching business, I would coach people hour after hour. So I would go to a business, I would sit there all day. Somebody would walk in the room, I would coach them, they would walk out, somebody else, and 8 hours of solidly coaching people. And by the end of the day, I often was confused about what was my emotion
Yeah.
and what was others, and I had to consciously remind myself because although theoretically people bring positive things to coaching, they never do. It's always a challenge or a problem. So all you ever hear is that, and knowing that the whole concept of emotional contagion, I think, is critical for anybody that's in a space where they're working with people.
Oh, absolutely. And I think the other thing that I think is important here is the contagion to others, but also the upward spiral or potentially downward
Mm.
spiral in yourself.
Mm.
And for people who know some of the theories, the broaden and build theory by Barbara Fredrickson, that sort of talks about that upward spiral, that when you leverage a positive emotion, you build your resources, and when you use your resources, you might leverage a positive emotion. And so I think for one of the things for me that I think is really important about emotions is taking the time to really notice and create those moments of positive emotion
Mhm.
so that you've perhaps got a buffer. It's often easy to see the more challenging, the negative, but do we stop and notice the moments of joy, the moments of connection, the moments of gratitude, the serenity, the pride, the hope, all of those sorts of things? Because that's what's going to help elevate us when we need it, when we're having the bad days.
Yeah, actually, again, a beautiful link to something that occurred earlier in my day today, where we were talking about some elements within the organization I work for, and areas where we needed to improve, and where we were seeing some improvement, and we kept drilling down to what can we get better at, what can we get better at, and I had to pause the meeting and say, look, let's look at where we've actually succeeded and what can we learn from that, what can we leverage from what we've done well. So where does gratitude fit into all of this, Sue?
Well, I think gratitude is an interesting one because lots of people hear about gratitude and it's like, write down three things you're grateful for every night.
Mm.
And by all means, do that. I do that most nights. I
Yeah.
write down something I'm grateful for. But I think one of the things that's really important is gratitude is an emotion. It's data that you feel in your body.
Mm.
And there's generally a warmth to it, there's generally a bit of energy to it. But it's known as an elevating emotions. As in, if I express my gratitude to you, Alex, for doing this podcast, for having this conversation together, for the energy that I get from doing this, and I am so grateful to you that we decided to do this together, it lifts both people.
Mm.
Not a down thingy, but it lifts both parties. So it's known as an elevating emotion. And I think, again, sometimes people equate gratitude when they hear about it of write three things down. Well, that's just a tick box exercise. If you're not actually feeling it, it's meaningless. If I say, I don't know, you cook me dinner and I say, thanks, Alex, and I think that means I've expressed my gratitude. If I didn't actually feel it, what's the point?
Mm.
So for me, it's much more about understanding that gratitude can be generated in 200 different ways. It's not about what you do, it's what you feel when you do it. And that's the trick, I think.
I love that, Sue, and I just love the kind of reflection that it's not a tick box exercise, because so often that's the way it's treated, and people will often struggle If you say to somebody, I seriously want you to write down 3 to 5 things every evening that you've been grateful for that day, people will struggle eventually. They'll feel like they're being repetitive. Some people will say, well, I haven't got anything to be grateful for, and that can make them feel even worse that I can't think of this. So yeah, yeah, right. And also you're right with the kind of reflection onto other people
Mm.
as well. Again, I was very blessed. Recently, I had to share some very difficult news with some people at work. And then somebody sent me an email thanking me for the way I had shared it.
Mm.
Uh, and it obviously kind of lifted that individual to do that, but lifted me to receive it as well.
Yeah, and I think coming back to that is when we think about gratitude, to your point, three things every day. Eventually, I'm going to start repeating myself. It becomes a tick box, and then I'm not feeling anything. So I'm not actually doing gratitude. But if we might shake it up one night, I might write down three things I'm grateful for, and the next night I might share it over dinner with somebody, and then the
Yeah.
next I might do something different. But one of the things that you said is really important there is sometimes people think gratitude can fix everything. I think gratitude is wonderful. It's one of my top strengths. I love feeling grateful. I've trained my brain to look for things to be
Mhm.
grateful for, much to the annoyance of my husband over the years. Um, so I totally believe in gratitude. But I tell you what, if I am feeling depressed and you start saying to me, well, come on, so you've got so many things to be grateful for,
Yeah.
that's really annoying.
Yeah. Yeah.
And to your point, all I do is then feel guilty that I don't feel grateful for the things that you say I should feel grateful for. So I think we have to be really careful that gratitude is an emotion that I feel, not a thing that I do or gets done to me.
Absolutely. So is it possible to overdo positive emotions?
Oh, I don't know. I think there is if they're fake when we get
Right.
toxic
Yeah.
positivity. So when it's like, oh yes, everything's wonderful and yay, we should all be happy all the time because that can be annoying. So we know that when there's incongruence, if I'm trying to tell you that I'm happy but I'm not, the
Uh,
incongruence in the data is you're going to see that I'm not, even though I'm telling you that I am.
yeah.
So I think if we're doing it that way, yes. And then it comes back to emotional expression of what is the way I'm expressing it, is it appropriate? And that can be the same for the more challenging negative emotions. Is it's not that shouldn't feel it, but is this the appropriate place to share that? And again, I have a bit of an issue with this at the moment that people sort of sharing, oh, I'm going through some mental health challenges, but actually they're just talking about everyday life.
Yeah. Yes.
Right. Yeah, that's just life. That's what we do. And again, that's my probably personal issue. But I think when we're experiencing an emotion, there is, whether it's positive, whether it's negative, whether it's neutral, whether it's something in between, is are you expressing it in a way that is appropriate in that setting? There are certain things that might not be appropriate for me to suddenly divulge at work. It doesn't mean it's wrong that I'm feeling it. It's just a one-on-one conversation with somebody is possibly the better outlet for me to
Mm,
share that. As far as positive emotions, I think I'm not sure we can overdo it because too often I see people not paying enough attention to them. So
yeah.
pay more.
Yeah. So that's a beautiful segue to how. Um, for somebody who's listening to this at this moment in time and thinking, well, I want to get in touch with that data. I want to use it. How do I do it?
Yeah, oh, there's a few things around this that I really love is one, start to pay attention to your body more. And the next time you experience a moment of joy, what does your body feel like? Have you got hotter? Do you feel
Mm,
like twitching and moving? Like right now, I'm feeling energized. So my feet are on the floor, I'm bouncing around on my chair. I can feel that energy in my body.
yeah.
So one thing is to start paying attention to the data, because once you notice that, you can replicate it, you can do it again. The other is notice those moments. So just like we've been talking about before, is notice that moment of how do you feel when you hold your wife's hand as you walk along the beach and what does it do and how do I get more of it?
Mm,
It doesn't have to always be the holding of your wife's hand. It could be
yeah.
something else, but you want that feeling more.
Mm,
The other thing you spoke about is write stuff down. So capture those thoughts, those moments, and then think about how you can do more, how you can bring more alive. And the other thing is share it. So I often do an exercise with people where I get people to reflect on three things they're grateful for individually. So write them down, reflect on them, feel that sense of gratitude. And then I put them into a group and say, now share that with others. And it always amplifies people.
wow, that's beautiful.
Because when I share it with you, even if yours are different to mine, I'm like, oh, me too, Alex. I have
Yes, yeah,
this.
yeah,
So it lifts us again. So I
yeah.
think whether it's gratitude or whether it's just positive emotions in general, write them down, notice them. And my favorite one is pay attention to your physiology because you can then do it again. You'll know that when you're energized, you're on the balls of your feet, you're energized. So do that more often, and that positive emotion might start to come back.
Cool. I've got a difficult question for you to end on. Hope, well, it might not be. It might be really easy for you. But will the data, and I will try to say data in future,
No,
but
no, that's fine for you.
yeah.
That's so posh for me.
Will it change? Be the same emotion, but will the data be different at times?
Look, it certainly can do. And again, it depends on our nuance of language. So this would be
Mm,
my other tip for people is expand your emotional vocabulary. Because sometimes if our vocabulary is small, we will interpret different data in the same way. So let's imagine I only have I'm happy, sad, and angry. That's it.
mm,
Or maybe if I'm even lower on my emotional vocabulary, I've got good, bad, okay, thanks.
mm.
What they've found is the more rich your emotional vocabulary is, the more nuanced you can experience from a data perspective. So, do you understand the difference between curious, intrigued, and interested? Do you
Mm.
understand the difference between irritable, annoyed, and frustrated? And then, can you notice the nuance in your body when you experience those three different emotions? It's a bit like wellbeing literacy. Wellbeing literacy says the more we expand our literacy, our verbiage, if you like, our vocabulary and our learning and our explanations around well-being, we actually increase our well-being. It's kind of the same with emotions. So that would be my other tip. And I actually have some cards in my little cabinet over
Mhm.
here, little emotion cards. And sometimes this is how sad I am. If I can't identify how I feel, I get my little pack of cards out,
Wow.
go through them. I'm like, oh, it's that one today.
Brilliant.
I used to be terrible with my emotional vocab, but it's got much better over the years.
Fantastic. And that's given me a challenge now. So I'm going to try to increase my emotional literacy. So awesome. So thank you so much, Sue. I mean, I've actually learned a huge amount in a short space of time. So I've loved it, and I hope those listening did too. And the next time we connect, we're hopefully going to discuss creativity and curiosity. So linking some interesting concepts together. In the meantime, thank you, and thank you to everybody who's listened.
Thank you, everybody.